Now, overthinking is something that haunts most of our lives. Our brain is constantly moving, thinking, worrying, and anxiety affecting our lives and sleep, paralyzing us. I totally understand how you feel. If you're like me, a chronic overthinker, then you need to watch this video because I'll be sharing some of the method that I use to overcome or at least reduce overthinking. So keep watching. Hey, I hope you guys are doing well. My name is Jean Lu and welcome back to the video where we make a difference in life. Now, overthinking is such a common issue and it's become even common nowadays as we live in such a fast-moving world. High expectation at work, infinite amount of social media content, family issues, debt, commitment, politics, and the list goes on and on. And studies shows that 73% of adults aged from 25 to 35 admit that they overthink regularly, and over 60% of people say they spend more time overthinking the problems than actually solving it. So if you feel like you're overthinking, you are not alone. Now, you see, I used to think that there was something wrong with me. I kept worrying about all sorts of things, day and night, big or small, and even things that are not related to me. It's extremely tiring because it's affecting my sleep due to anxiety and overactive brain. Now, for example, there was a client asking for an emergency meeting in the morning. I will start worrying when I go to bed. My tiny little brain will start working and recall back those information, trying to find clues and patch them all together to find an answer. Like, did I mess up on certain deliveries? Did I miss the deadline? Did any of my team members make a big mistake? Are we not meeting the client's expectation? And even if you formulate an answer or a reason, but because you're not sure if it's true, your mind will continue to process the new information that you just thought of, and the cycle continues on and on. But the more people I talk to about it, the more I realize that I'm actually not alone in this. So if you feel the same, know that you are not alone and everybody around you is actually struggling with overthinking. So first, we need to acknowledge that everyone overthinks. It's just that some people overthink more often than the others. So why do we overthink? Now, in my opinion, overthinking always starts with what if. What if I messed up this project? What if my business plan fails? What if I win the lottery 10 years ago? It all starts with a question that we don't have an answer, that we are 100% certain. You see, overthinking can be broken down into two categories. We are either worrying about the future or thinking about the past. Now let's talk about worrying about the future. Humans don't like uncertainty. Our brain is wired to look for answers. And this is because of a survival instinct. We want to know if we are going to be safe or if we are going to thrive. And if there's any sign that could disrupt our livelihood and put us in danger, our survival instinct will start to react before anything has even happened. And because we cannot predict the future, our brains will go into a loop trying to find the answers to a problem that hasn't even existed yet. And that loop is why we overthink. And this ties to overanalyzing our decision as well. When we are faced with a critical decision that might change the course of our lives, we start to think about the future. We start to predict the possibility of our future for each decision that we make. And again, because every answer that we predict is uncertain, we create more of what ifs in our brain, and the process creates a loop of overthinking. Now, another category is thinking about the past. You see, humans are sentimental creatures. Human brains evolved to develop emotional attachment to things, and these emotional attachments often react to how we live our lives in the present. Now, there might be some traumas that happened to you in the past that cause you to develop a heightened sense of alertness for potential threat to prevent future harms. And your mind will start to think about regrets and what ifs again. What if things happen differently? Would my life be different now? And we get stuck in the past rather than living in the present. And over the years, I've tried so many ways, watching so many videos on how to overcome overthinking, like meditation, breathing work, going for a walk, clear your mind, and on and on and on. While all this method works to an extent, it's also very important to understand why they work, so when we practice them, we are more aware of our actions in these methods that can help us overcome overthinking. And that awareness will make it more effective. Now, I won't say that I've completely overcome overthinking, but it's definitely much better now. And with so many tips that I've learned, I will select and break down a couple of tips that have worked for me, and I hope it'll work for you as well. So the first tip is aware and acknowledge. Now, the first thing is we need to acknowledge that we have an overthinking problem, and then be aware of it when the overthinking happens or when you start worrying about something. You probably heard advice like, don't think about it, just stay calm, or everything is going to be okay. But let's be honest, it's easier said than done. In fact, trying not to think about something can make it even worse. That's because our brain are wired to have thoughts constantly, especially the strong ones. Now think about it. If you're excited for a trip tomorrow that you have planned for a long time, and you try to go to bed early to get the good night's sleep so you can feel energized for the trip, but your mind just wouldn't let you stop thinking. And the more you try not to think about the trip as you fall asleep, the more you feel awake. Why? Because you are forcing your brain to shut off and to think of something else, and that makes it work even harder. Now it's the same with overthinking. Instead of forcing yourself to not think about the thoughts that's worrying you, try to embrace the thought, face it head on. Start by asking, is this real or am I just overthinking? Is the problem really that big or am I taking it too seriously? And this question will trigger the awareness and they will help us pause and reframe the whole situation. So let me give you an example. Have you ever said something in a meeting and immediately thought, oh crap, I should have said that? And then you start worrying. You start imagining what everyone thinks, whether did it hurt your reputation. But later you finally ask a colleague about what they thought about you and they said, oh, actually I didn't think anything bad about it. And I actually appreciate your honesty. And suddenly you feel relief and maybe even felt a little silly for worrying so much. But the truth is, most of the time, the problem isn't as big as we thought it is. Our brains just love to play the tricks on us, and honestly, other people usually don't care as much as we think they do. So the takeaway is this: you can't control your thoughts by suppressing them, but you can control by becoming aware of them, questioning their truth and seeing them for what they are. They're just thoughts, they're not facts. Overthinking loses its power when you acknowledge it and question it instead of trying to fight it or ignore it. Now, another powerful way to manage overthinking is to give your mind a timeout. This is where common advice like go for a walk, try meditation or breathing exercises comes in. But let's talk about why they work. When you're stuck in a loop of overthinking, your brain is in overdrive, jumping from one what ifs to another, and you're trapped in your head. So what you need is to pause, take a step back, not just from the problem, but from your current mental state. Now, taking a walk, just like 30 to 60 minutes, physically removing yourself from the environment and shift your focus to your surroundings, but don't put on any headphones and listen to any podcast to stimulate your brain like what I usually do. But instead, walk, focus on being mindful and present. Look at the trees, look at the plants, feel the breeze around you, hear the birds chirping, and your brains will get a break from the spiral and will start to reset. Taking a walk can also improve brain health by boosting blood flow, stimulating new brain cells, enhancing cognitive function, and studies also show that walking improves mood and reduces stress. Now, meditation works in a similar way. By meditating, you're actually not trying to stop overthinking, but you're actually creating a space between overthinking and you. You observe them without judgment, and in that space, you start to realize that it's not your thoughts. You are the one watching them. Now, I admit that I don't meditate every day, but when I'm feeling stressed or overthinking kicks in, I will lay down on my bed or on the floor after a workout, turn on some Zen meditation music and let my mind drift. And once it gets further and further away, I bring it back, focus on my breathing in and out until my mind starts to drift again, and then bring them back into my breathing. And I repeat this for 10 to 15 minutes. So it's like a yoga for your brain where you're training your brain to switch between your thoughts and presence. It calms your nervous system and removes the noise, and it creates awareness. And once you reset your mind, you calm down and become aware, you start to think more rationally. So the takeaway is this: overthinking needs space, not solutions, because you don't have all the answers yet. So stepping away helps you create the space that you need and reset. And in return, you will see things more clearly. Another strategy that I personally use to overcome overthinking is by setting my expectation. Specifically, by preparing for the worst case scenario. Now, I know this might sound counterintuitive, but most advice will tell you to, hey, think positive. But when you're overthinking, that's easier said than done. Your brain is wired to jump to the worst conclusion. So why not just go with the flow and meet it there, but on your own terms? So I always ask myself, what is the worst that could happen? And then I follow up with, if that actually happens, what will I do next? And then my mind will start to shift from fearful thinking to forward thinking. Instead of being stuck in the panic mode, I start planning my comeback. Now let me give you an example. Every time I upload a YouTube video, I will start to get nervous, like, will people watch this? Is this advice even good? What if people hates it? So then I start to walk myself through the worst case scenario. Maybe the video gets low views. Maybe I get a few negative comments. Maybe someone said, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about. Okay, so what happens then? Hey, I'm still alive. It's not the end of the world. I've learned something, I make another video, I get better, and I keep going. And here's the key. Even in the worst case scenario, there's always something that I gain. Experience, feedback, resilience, and when you set your expectation low and prepare for the worst, you take away the fear of uncertainty, and when things turns out better than expected, as they always usually do, you feel empowered and not disappointed. So instead of trying to force positivity, try grounding yourself in reality. Face the worst case scenario and you will realize that it's rarely as bad as your mind makes it out to be. And the next tip is, trust the process. Now, one of the most powerful beliefs that has helped me overcome overthinking is learning to trust the process. To have faith that everything happens for a reason and that things will eventually fall into place. It's the idea that even if you can't see the full picture right now, even if things feel messy, uncertain, or slow, there's always a bigger plan unfolding. And setbacks, they aren't the end. They are just often the beginning of growth. And when you believe in this, it helps quiet the noise in your head and replace the fear with patience. Now let me share you a personal story. A few months ago, I walked away from a career that I've built for over 18 years. I was at the peak of it, a stable job, a good title, steady income. Then something happened that made me stop, reflect, and then I take a leap that I never thought I would, to quit and pursue my dreams. It was one of the hardest and scariest decisions of my life. But for months before that, I was in overdrive, overthinking about every single scenario. What if I fail? What if I blow all of my saving and I have to start all over again? What if I'm not as capable as I thought I was? And even after I quit, that overthinking didn't go away immediately. I felt alone, the progress was slow, I was burning through my savings without a salary, my goals felt so far away, and there were days when I seriously questioned myself, did I actually make the right decision? Am I going to make it or regret it? But during those moments of doubt, I kept reminding myself to be grateful for what I had, to remember how far I've come, and to trust that this journey, no matter how uncertain and tough it might be, was leading me to something better. And looking back, I realized that everything had preparing me for this. I built strong financial habits, learning to invest, creating a safety net, and all of this experience that I gained from work, all of which gave me the confidence to take this leap. And now I tell myself this: believe in the vision, stay resilient, be patient, and trust the process. Because that belief pulled me out of the spiral of overthinking about the future and brought me back into the present, where I could actually take action and build something meaningful. Here's the truth. We often worry about whether we have made the right decision. But the truth is, there's no such thing as a right or wrong decision. Because we don't know what the alternative path would have led to. It might not have been better. So instead of overthinking the outcomes that you can't control, focus on what you can. Show up, do the work, keep going, trust the process, have faith, and stay present. And finally, one of the most underrated ways to overcome overthinking is simply experience. Now, it's not a hack, it's not a quick fix, but it's one of the most powerful tools that you can have. Because when you're doing something new, overthinking is almost inevitable. You're stepping into the unknown, everything feels unfamiliar, and your brain goes into overdrive and tries to predict every single outcome, every mistake, and every possible failure. Now think about it, you got your first job right after college. You walk into a company with the people who seems like they know what they're doing, and you're trying to make a good impression. Learning the new system, understanding your roles, navigating the office politics all at once. And at night, you're lying in bed thinking about everything that could have gone wrong. It's exhausting. But here's what happened over time. You push through, you make mistakes, you learn, you adapt, and slowly, the things that once caused you so much anxiety don't even face you anymore. And that's the power of experience. Experience helps you eliminate uncertainty and diminish variables. Because you have gone through it before, it's like building a mental toolbox. The more problem you face, the more tools you collect. So let's say at the beginning of a journey, you're hit with 1,000 new problems, and you felt overwhelmed because every single one is unfamiliar and new. But over the years, you solve one by one, and let's say you have tackled over 700 of them. Now, when there's a new challenge that pops up, there's a 70% chance that you have either faced it or something similar before. And that meant fewer surprises, less anxiety, and more confidence. And that's what experience does. It doesn't remove the problem, but it removes the panic. It doesn't make life easier, but it makes you stronger. I still remember the first time I led a project, and especially the first time that I was put in charge of a team. It was rough. I had anxiety day and night, constantly worrying about what could go wrong, what if the client isn't happy, what if the team messes up, what if I fail and lose everyone's trust. I was overthinking every single conversation, every email, every feedback, and every single decision. But here's what I learned. The more projects that I handle, the more mistake that I made, the more problem that I solved, the more mature and stable I became. Because now when something goes wrong, I've likely seen it before. I don't panic, I anticipate the issue, think it through, and find a solution calmly. And that confidence didn't just come from motivational quotes or pep talks. It came from experience. And experience eliminates uncertainty and variables. It gives you a reference point to say that I've been through this before, I know how to handle it. So if you're struggling with overthinking, remind yourself, you actually just need more reps. Keep showing up, keep learning, and keep growing. Because the more experience that you gain, the more your mind will start saying that I've been through this before, I can actually handle this. So here's a summary. Overthinking can feel like it's a never-ending loop. But here's the truth, you're not stuck. You're just learning. The key is not to fight your thoughts, but to understand them. Be aware and take a step back, reset your mind, set expectation right, and most importantly, trust the process. Now, you don't need to have it all figured right now. What you need is to take one step at a time, gain experience, and remind yourself that progress always starts with action, not perfection. So if your mind is racing, just pause, breathe, and take one small step forward. And having that said, if you need some tips on how to navigate your career, click on the video here. And if this video helped you, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs to hear this today. And remember, it's not about getting rid of every worry. It's about learning how to move forward despite them. Hey, I'm Gene. Continue to make a difference in life, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Cheers!